Hello there. On today's video, we're going to create module plugs. And as the name implies, now instead of creating a function, we're going to create a module. And to be more specific, on this video, we're going to build a form on the homepage where the user can select which of the consoles he owns. So I'm going to have a form with PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Nintendo. He's going to select that. And then in theory, whenever he goes to a video game page, it's going to be pre-selected his console. So that's the idea for today's video. I am going to start off with the front end because that's the easy part. So we're going to go to the lib folder, shop web, controllers, page HTML, go to the home page, and I'm going to delete everything from here but the flash group. So I'm gonna leave this, leave this here, delete everything. I'm gonna add an H1 saying welcome to shop. H2, this is the best video game e-commerce store, right? Horizontal line here. Now I'm gonna add some margins. Now remember, we have tailwind, so you can just say class equals m y 10, and here I'm gonna have a regular form. I'm just gonna say form. I don't want any action here, so we're gonna go to the same page, which is the home page. Form, we need a button of type submit to submit the form. So I'm just gonna say save here. And then, actually, we need a title for this. So I'm gonna say select your favorite console. All right. Now we need a select component. So I'm gonna say select. The name is gonna be console. The ID console. Now here we're gonna have a couple of options. The value here is going to be PC. So PC. We're also going to have three other ones. It's going to be Xbox. We also have PlayStation. And now we also have, Nintendo. Just gonna add a uppercase here. Nintendo, Xbox, PC. Okay, this should be enough to work. So if we go back to Chrome, actually we need to start the server, right? Mix phx.server. If we go back to Chrome, refresh, this is our new boring front end. And this is just a vanilla form. So if I select something here like PlayStation and I hit save, we're going to navigate to the same page, which is the home page for now. And then we're going to pass a couple of parameters to the URL. We have a console form. So it's going to be console equals, and then the name of whatever selection we make here. So if I select PlayStation and hit save, we have a question mark console equals PlayStation. All right. And what exactly are we going to do with this? How is a module plug useful? So what I want to do is I want to grab the request. I want to assign the console variable, pass that along to the views. And not only that, but I want to persist this variable somehow. And I think one of the best ways to persist something without using a database is using cookies. So if you open up your developer tab and go to application, then there's storage on the left. You're gonna select cookies and then localhost on port 4000. As we can see, we now just have one value on the cookies. It's shop key with a very cryptic ID here. Okay, now let's create the plug. I can close this down. I'm gonna go to lib, shop web, And my personal preference for creating module plugs is inside Shop Web. I like creating a plugs folder, and then whatever module plug I have, I add on this folder. So here I'm gonna do new file. I'm gonna say SetConsole.ex. We're gonna do a def module. The name is shopweb.plugs.setConsole, and I'm having a lot of noise from the streets. Let me close the window. That should be better. Okay. Now, what exactly do we need inside this module for it to become a module plug? We need two functions. We need one function called init, which is responsible for passing the OPTS parameter around, and the other one is called call, and that is pretty much the function that is going to do the heavy lifting. So we have def init. The parameter for this init function, we usually call it default or OPTS, which is optional parameters. Here I'm just gonna do a do OPTS, and I'm going to return this variable. So this variable is going to be passed along to the call. Now we also have def call. This function needs two parameters, the same as the function plug. So the first parameter is con. This con is from a struct called Plug.Conn. And then the second parameter is the OPTS that we have on top. But now we are not going to use it. Followed by a do. Here we can do whatever we want. So I'm going to say io.inspect. I'm going to say module plug is working. All right. And now, never forget, on the call, we need to return the con, because this is functional programming. We grab a parameter, we do some transformations on top of it, and then we need to return that same parameter because many other functions are going to use this same parameter. So we need to return it. So this is the bare minimum that we need for a module plug. Let's see if this works. Now the first plug that we created, we used inside endpoint, and there you go, this is the plug that we created. But I don't want to use it inside the endpoint, I want to use it inside the router. So I'm gonna go back to the router. And here, as you can see by the naming, we have one pipeline, which is a group of plugs that run on the browser, and another group of plugs that run for APIs. This plug specifically that I created, I want to run on the browser. So now inside pipeline browser, I'm going to add another line, which is plug. And since this is a module, I have to type the name of the module, which is shopweb.plugs.setConsole. All right. But I think this is very verbose, so I'll add an alias on top. So now I can say alias shopweb.plugs, and down below I can just say plugs.setConsole. Amazing. And what about this OPTS here? As I said before, the OPTS is an optional parameter. We can even do an IO inspect here as well. So if we're passing an OPTS, you can say here io.inspect. I'm going to say string OPTS, then concatenate with OPTS. And what if on the plug here we pass the default console that we want pre-selected? So that's what we're going to do. I'm gonna say that the default console is PC. Now inside my SetConsole, I have these two inspects. Let's see if this is working. Go back to Chrome, and then let me just remove this and then refresh the home page. Go back, and then there you go. Module plug is working and the OPTS is PC. Amazing. All right, so this is working. How are we going to do the heavy lifting of saving to the cookies and reading the URL? Let's start off by reading from the URL and then saving on the cookie, and then later on we're going to deal with reading the cookie. So instead of creating like the non-Elixir way and then refactoring later, I'm just going to write from now on just the Elixir way. And then if you need help, drop a comment below and I'm gonna help you translate your programming knowledge from one language to the Elixir way. So now I'm just gonna do a bunch of pattern matching. Follow me on this one. I'm gonna have another call on top. From this call on top, I want specifically the params atom. Inside the params atom, we have a map, right? Whoops. We have a map. Inside this map, we have a string with the parameter from the URL. So I'm gonna say console. And then I'm going to bind that console variable from the URL to a console variable. Nice. Now what? Now we need to grab the con. We need to assign a variable inside the connection so the front end can read this later. So I'm gonna say assign console is equal to console, the variable. Now we're going to get an error here. And why is that? This assign function, you cannot use it like anywhere. It's not coming from the kernel module. It's coming from another module called Plug.Conn. So we need to import those functions. So below the def module, you can add import Plug.Conn. Now you have access to the assign, all right? And we're not actually using OPTS. So for now, I'm just adding an underscore. And okay, but besides assigning this to the connection, I also want to save this on a cookie. And how do we do that on Phoenix? We're going to write put response cookie, right? Where the key is a string. So the string here is going to be console, and then followed by the value of the cookie, which is the variable console. And you can pass some optional keyword lists here. I think there's one called max age. I don't remember if it's max underscore age or max age altogether. I think it's max underscore age. I'm gonna say that the max age is 60 days. And to get 60 days, I'm gonna use an Erlang library called timer. So timer.hours. Unfortunately, we don't have timer.days or timer.months, but we have timer.hours. So I'm gonna say 24 hours, which is 1 day, and I want to multiply that by 30. This way we have 30 days. Okay, no errors, no warnings. This should be working. So let's check out what we have here. We have one call function that grabs the console from the params. If we have a console on the params, then we're gonna assign a variable and we're gonna save that on the cookie. If we don't have a console on the params, then we're gonna call this second function, which is partially incorrect, because if we don't have anything on the URL, I want to use the default console, and we're passing that through OPTS. So now in the function below, you can remove the underscore, and we're going to say that this con is going to have a variable called console, which is an atom, and the value of the console is OPTS, because OPTS is the default console. And actually, we can even rename OPTS and call it, let me grab all of them, default console. This way it's more clear what the variable is being used for. Right, so let's check this out. I'm gonna go to Google Chrome, refresh. We don't have any cookies here. if I select my favorite console as, let me zoom out. If I select Nintendo as my favorite console and hit save, watch what happens. We now have console equal Nintendo on the URL, and we also have a value on the cookies. And if I change that to PlayStation and save, there you go, console, PlayStation. Pretty neat, right? Now, the final use case that we need to cover is the following. I'm going to copy this first function, paste it here, and that is, what if we don't have anything on the params, but we have something on the cookies? Now, instead of checking the params from Plug.Conn, I want to check cookies. And it's in plural, okay? We're going to type cookies, and it's pretty much the same code. I want a string called console inside the cookies. If it exists, then this function is going to run. It's going to assign a console, and then I do not want to put a cookie here because I am reading the cookie. If the cookie exists, I don't want to set the cookie, correct? Okay, so let me go back to here. And now if I clear the URL, you can see that I still have console PlayStation. And then if I change the page to /products, for example, I still have console PlayStation. And we can add this variable on any page. So let me go back to the home.html.hix, and I'm going to add below the form another P with some margin, class. I want a margin top of 8, and I'm gonna say selected console followed by the variable that we set. So it's at console, right? Let me go back to Google Chrome. I want to go to the home page, and there you go. Select your favorite console. There's nothing on the URL, but we can read here selected console PlayStation. And you can do this on any page because when you assign a variable inside a plug, that is available everywhere. So as an example, I'm going to copy this code and I'm going to paste this on the product page. So on the product page here, I'm going to say selected console. So if I change to /products, this is the product listing page and the selected console is PlayStation. And for now, we can manually change this. So for example, instead of PlayStation, I can say Nintendo and then hit refresh. And there you go. Selected console is Nintendo. Now, is this working? Yes, but there are still some edge cases here. So for example, let's say that the user has the wrong intentions and he is manually typing on the URL console equals wrong. Now we have saved an invalid console. You can check the cookies. We have console equals wrong, and then selected console wrong. This is not ideal, right? Can we solve this using the power of Elixir? Yes, we can. We can go back to the code. I am going to remove this from the product listing page. I'm gonna leave the home page alone. Router, that's pretty much finished. Now here, I am going to use a guard to avoid saving an invalid console. So I'm gonna create a module attribute, which is pretty much a constant. I'm gonna say valid underscore consoles. This is going to be a list of strings. I'm gonna say Nintendo, PC, PlayStation, Xbox. Nice. Now check this out. And the error that Elixir is showing is that we created a module attribute, but we're not using it anywhere. Now, we want to say that I just want to call this call function if I have a valid console. if I don't have a valid console, then I don't want to run these two first calls. So what we can do here is, after the function definition, before the do, we can say when console in valid consoles. So now the first two functions are only going to run if I am reading a valid console from the URL or if I'm reading a valid console from the cookies. Otherwise, if none of these two functions are valid, then you're going to call the final function, which is assigning the default console, right? And just for safety, you can, like, for example, you can assign the cookie here as well, and then the console will be the default console, right? So if I go back here, as you can see, we have console equals wrong. Watch what happens if I refresh the page. Whoa, selected console PC, but I have the wrong URL. We used the guards, so none of the two call functions were called. We called the final one, and the final call function assigns the default console, right? That's why we have a correct cookie value and a correct variable to the front end. So I can even go here and mess up this even more. I'm gonna say, I don't know, PlayStation 999. If I refresh the page, let me show you better. PlayStation 999, this console doesn't exist. If I refresh the page, there you go. We have console equals wrong on the URL. And then on the cookies, we have console PC. That's the default. We removed the PlayStation 999. And then on the front end, we say selected console PC. There we go. So we covered, as far as I know, most of the edge cases. But if you can find any other edge case, then let me know in the comments and feel free to fix that yourself. And that's it for module consoles. To be honest, I never use function plugs. I mostly use module plugs because I think it looks extremely good on the file system to have a plugs folder. And to be honest, I think it's just more organized to have a plugs folder. So I pretty much never use function plugs, just module plugs most of the times. So that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.